Welcome to Zooming Into Focus, a podcast that explores and highlights the research and training developed by the Virginia Commonwealth University Rehabilitation Research and Training Center on the employment of persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities project. I'm your host, Lucian Friel. On this episode, we are joined by Grace Ward. Grace graduated from Virginia Tech in 2022, earning a Bachelor of Science in Human Development and Family Sciences, with a minor in Disability Studies. She joined the VCU-RRTC team as a Supported Employment Specialist in July 2022. She works to support a caseload of clients throughout the greater Richmond area and enjoys working with individuals of all ages with disabilities. And she's here to tell us about her experiences in the field and give us some insight into what an employment specialist does and how they assist individuals with disabilities in gaining and maintaining employment. Welcome to the podcast, Grace.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know that you all are super busy all the time with all of your clients that you have out in the community, and I'm really excited to talk with you about all of that.
I'm excited too.
How's your summer been so far?
It's been wonderful. I've gotten to do some fun trips and just relax and also work hard.
Awesome. How about your clients? Have they been able to take some breaks from all the work that they've been doing?
Yes. Lots have gone on vacations, which has also given me a little bit of a break too.
That's great. That's great. Is that kind of like every year that sort of happens? That's good. That's definitely good. So let's jump right into it. Can you tell us about your role as an employment specialist?
Sure. So as an employment specialist, we help adults learn job skills and then find meaningful, competitive, integrative employment out in the community. So we really aim to take their skills and interests and preferences into consideration when finding a good job fit. We connect with businesses to learn about their job needs or their employment needs, and then we aim to match a fitting job seeker to those employment needs. And we also provide a lot of education to help businesses feel more inclined and open to working with us. So that might be disability awareness training or individualized training once an employee is hired on the job to help them feel comfortable supporting their employees.
Awesome. So what inspired you to work with individuals with disabilities? I know that you work with individuals with a variety of disabilities. For our project here, we work with those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but we can dive into that. But what inspired you to get into this field?
Yeah. Growing up, I always knew that I wanted to help people, but I just wasn't exactly sure how. I thought maybe I'd be a teacher in some sort of capacity. And then when I was in college, I took classes through a disability studies minor. Really amazing professor who just inspired me to kind of go into the disability sector. And then my last year in college, I got a part-time laundry aide job in a hotel just to make some extra money on the side. One of my coworkers had a job coach, so I learned about supported employment and job coaching through them. And I was just really interested in the whole thing. And when I came back to Richmond after I graduated, VCU was hiring for a similar role, and that's kind of how I started here.
That's awesome. Well, we're definitely fortunate to have you on the team. So you talked about competitive integrated employment. Why is competitive integrated employment so important for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities beyond just earning a paycheck?
I think in general, for anyone, employment can provide a sense of purpose, contributing to society. It also provides an opportunity to make social connections, general skill building, and gives a sense of autonomy and independence of making your own decisions. And I think competitive integrative employment is so important because it provides the same opportunities for people with disabilities as those without disabilities.
All right. Well, so with some of those opportunities, I know that there are some misconceptions out there that employers may have about hiring individuals with disabilities. Can you talk about maybe what some of those might be and how do you address those concerns?
There's a lot of misconceptions about working with people with disabilities and hiring them. Some are that they just can't work in general or that they're not going to meet performance expectations. But we've seen that the people we support almost work harder because of the barriers that they face. They're more motivated to work and do a good job. Some are that the accommodations are going to be too expensive to meet, but we found that accommodations cost little to nothing to meet, or that it's a safety liability, or if something were to happen, they may not feel comfortable disciplining or firing them as they would any other employee. But that's what we want. We want them to be treated like any other person, have the same expectations, and to address these concerns, we can show them our research, provide success stories of how other people with disabilities have contributed to the community and other businesses, or we could provide additional disability awareness training if needed.
Do you find that it's hard to get in the door sometimes, or is it? Do you find that businesses are just okay welcoming to come in, or does it? I'm sure it varies, based on the
Very much
business.
varies. And so we work hard to find those supportive businesses. We use our social networks to connect with those people, but we also try to educate other businesses that kind of give us that no. We want to push back a little bit. Okay, can I, give you some food for thought? And maybe I'll check in a month from now and see if you have any different thoughts. Or could I give you this training, written out and you can look at it on your own time and see if you have a change of thought.
That's excellent. What a cool approach to doing that. And I'm sure you all have to definitely stay on it and keep going back and building that relationship with those businesses. With that, can you share a success story of someone you've supported in finding meaningful employment and the impact it had on their life?
Sure. So a few years ago, I had someone who was really interested in theater and acting, and they also had really big goals of wanting to move out on their own and just feel really independent within their lives. And so we were thinking, how do we use those skills in the workplace. But we saw that Build-A-Bear Workshop was hiring for a bear builder position. So the two of us went in person just to talk with them, learn more about, what the position looks like and what their needs are. And he was actually offered an interview on the spot. He did wonderful. He was hired and quickly gained independence in that position. And since then, he's been there since. It's been a couple years. He has grown in the position. He is a bear builder, so he's able to use those skills to like give the performance to bring the bears to life. He's also leading birthday parties. He's training other employees. And last summer, he got his goal and moved out on his own. And so it's been wonderful to see how all the work that he's done has led to his goals. And I think that's really boosted his confidence of, if I have something that I want and I put my mind to it, I'm going to achieve it.
What a great success story and such a cool job to have, like
Hmm.
Build-A-Bear. That's so cool. So shout out to Build-A-Bear. And,
Yeah,
we're talking about organizations that kind of have pushback. Hey, you could have been mentioned, if you.
exactly.
So there you go. But with that, I'm sure that there have been some challenges that there are challenges along the way. I'm sure even for that client. What are some of the most common challenges individuals, specifically with IDD, face during the job search and hiring process?
I think in general, our main barrier is just finding supportive businesses who are willing to work with us, willing to learn about supported employment services. Some of our individuals are worried about losing their government benefits if they work too much over a certain threshold. So we work to connect them with a benefits counselor to figure out where that threshold lies so we don't, have them scheduled more than that. Also, sometimes traditional interviews can be a barrier if there are social skill or communication differences. And so sometimes we'll request a working interview where the employers get to see that person work without, having a sit down, just question interview. So that has definitely increased our success, but it's also dependent on if the business is open to adjusting their interview process.
That's excellent. And I know that y'all have dabbled in video resumes too,
Yes,
here and
video
there.
resumes. The
Uh,
QR codes with the visual resumes. Yeah, they're wonderful.
That's awesome. And that's helping show them at work as well, as opposed to just telling, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Seeing them work helps because if the sit down interview, if their social skills, if there's difficulty there, but they can work, we want to see them work instead of having them sit down and like struggle in an interview.
That's great that you have all these things to help overcome those barriers. So how do you work with employers to create these inclusive workplaces where employees with disabilities can thrive and grow?
We start by giving a disability history and awareness training or just general training on how to best support their employee to both the management, and we offer to provide training to the coworkers who will be working with this person as well. That could look like offering suggestions on how to communicate or how to redirect, just general support that person, just giving specifics. Also, when we have someone start a new position, the job coaches work really hard to build a rapport and a relationship with that business. So that way, if something happens, they feel comfortable to reach back out. So we can just come right back onto the site, provide any additional guidance or support as needed, and just continue the success.
So there's definitely all that relationship building that goes along the way, it sounds like. Um, do you feel like when you're assisting a client at work, I know that it's important for you to not be like the employee helping out, right? Like you're helping them do their job or to get settled in.
Mhm.
Have you found that to be difficult at times ever?
Sometimes I think it's my own problem of like not overstepping a little bit. I have to remind myself of, I am here to just support that person and not be an employee of the business. But just with practice, it's gotten easier over time. And I think, again, like being very clear to the business of why you're there helps.
We talk a lot about supported employment in this podcast, but where do the experts get their information from? Well, one place is the brand new Quality Supported Employment Services Handbook for Employment Support Professionals, the second edition. This handbook gives VR providers the practical tools, strategies, and confidence to help job seekers succeed in competitive integrated employment. Designed as a complete up-to-date guide to supported employment, it walks professionals through every step of the process, from building detailed job seeker profiles and developing employer relationships to delivering effective on-site training and long-term follow-along support. So whether you're just getting started or looking to sharpen your expertise, this handbook is your go-to resource for providing high-quality, person-centered employment services that can lead to meaningful outcomes. Order your copy today at vcurrtc.org/store. And now back to the podcast. So, shifting from talking about businesses now, what role do families, caregivers, and support networks play in helping someone achieve their employment goals?
Families and support networks, I definitely think, are the most important piece of the puzzle because families, they're the first piece of advocacy for them. They're the ones figuring out accommodations before they come to our services. They can help reinforce expectations and emotional support, just general encouragement at home. Because the job coach, we do that on the job site, but at home goes a long way. Social networks also help us increase employment outcomes because if we know that people are open to working with us and there's connections out there, those are the first people we're going to go to because they're the ones that are going to vouch for the people we support. They can help us find other leads that are open to working with us and just overall increase our success rates.
Well, that's great. It sounds like there's a lot of positive support from families, caregivers, and support networks. But have you ever encountered any, say, families or caregivers or anybody that I don't want to say get in the way, but become a barrier in the employment success? Whether that's maybe they're worried about their loved one's safety or things like that. And how do you overcome that?
Yeah, we've definitely had that happen. I have to remind myself that they've been the main support for this person for their whole lives, and they're just now passing on the reins to us for the employment piece of it. So I definitely try to validate all of their feelings and update them as much as possible when I'm supporting someone on the job site. Maybe at the end of each shift, we meet out in the parking lot and I say, here's what went great, here's what we're going to work on moving forward. Just emphasizing that they are safe, maybe showing them the work environment that they're in, introducing them to management if interested on both sides. So that way they feel comfortable and knowing that their loved one is looked out for on all sides. And just, I think over time, that anxiety starts to decrease and it just becomes like more of a relationship between me, the family, and the business. Everybody's kind of on the same team.
Wow. So it's so interesting as we've gone along here. I mean, employment specialists, you all are building relationships with families, with the individual, with employers. I mean,
Hmm.
um, what do you feel like that's, I'll rephrase the question. What do you feel like is the most important quality for an employment specialist to have when it comes to being successful?
Definitely communication. I think that's the main one because nobody wants to feel out of the loop or unaware of what's happening. Communication, also just interpersonal skills. You're meeting a lot of people out there every day, and you have to be open. You have to be a little outgoing. And sometimes that's not initially in your comfort zone, but again, with practice, it just becomes your new normal and you become more comfortable with it.
So you've been in the field for a while now, and sort of as a student of the game, uh, what has changed of supported employment over the years, and what trends or innovations are you excited about that you kind of see coming over the horizon?
Supported employment has definitely changed over the years. In the beginning, it was very, segregated, sheltered, not a lot of choice or autonomy was being considered. There's a lot of thoughts that with people with disabilities can't work. And so now we're in a place where we're definitely providing individualized support. We're able to take their skills, interests, support needs into consideration when finding a good job fit for them. With a supportive business, also, we can customize roles to make sure that we're meeting the business needs and the employee needs, even if that position isn't explicitly posted online. But overall, I think I'm just most excited for businesses learning about supported employment and job coaching, being more open to working with us. And I think that could really change a lot of people's lives and just become, again, our new normal of just an inclusive community.
Yeah, and that all sounds really exciting for the future. For for employers though who have never hired someone with an intellectual or developmental disability in particular, what advice would you give to them to get started?
I would encourage them just to be open to learning new things, learning how to support people with disabilities, be patient, ask as many questions as you have, and consider being open to adjusting your hiring or interviewing process. Like I said earlier, maybe consider doing a working interview if a sit down formal interview isn't the best fit for that person.
I think working interview sounds really cool. Like you get to really see like the person like, all right, you can tell me all about what what you can do and everything like that, but when you can show, I mean that sounds like a really good opportunity, not just for people with disabilities, but for everybody.
Exactly. We give them the opportunity to see them work without fully committing to hiring them before we move forward.
Have you noticed any employers sort of adapt to that and maybe implement that in their hiring practices so far?
Some are open to it. I think it's kind of a case basis.
Hmm.
I don't know if they've fully, done one working interview and say, okay, we're open and going to do working interviews all the time, but maybe. I think it just depends.
Something to look forward to maybe in the
Hmm.
future.
I hope so.
So, if you could leave our listeners, and this has been a great interview, by the way. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about employment specialists and what you all do, because I know it's such hard work and all that relationship building and going back and forth and businesses after businesses and clients after clients. Um, but if you could leave our listeners with one key message about the abilities, talents, and contributions of individuals specifically with intellectual and developmental disabilities, what would it be?
I would encourage them to look at disability as different ability rather than a lack of ability, because we've seen the people we support bring so much value, so much character, and just so many different skills that could be missed out on if you don't consider working with them and learning more.
Right. It's what is the phrase? It's like seeing things from not from a deficit, but like
From like different skills or
mhm.
seeing the strengths before you see the deficits.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I feel like everyone should be looked at that way.
Exactly.
See what you can do and focus on your strengths.
That's our goal.
Awesome. Well, Grace, thank you so much for joining us on Zooming into Focus. I hope that you'll come back later on down the road and, kind of fill us in on all the goings on of business connections and everything that y'all are doing out in the community.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for joining us today. The contents of this podcast were developed under a grant from the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research, NIDLR grant number 90RTE M0013. NIDLR is a center within the Administration for Community Living, the ACL, Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. The contents of this podcast do not necessarily represent the policy of NIDLR, ACL, HHS, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. Again, thank you for joining us.